stablecoins give you the opportunity to do everything that fiat allows you to do. It's a great unit of account in most places. It's a great method of payment, right? I'm not going to comment on the store of value side of things, but for most people, it's an acceptable store of value. I think it's a terrible store of value, but that's a different conversation. But like, the reality is like, people are used to spending dollars, pesos, whatever. That's what your restaurant, your supermarket, your rent is denominated in like a local fiat currency. So people are like very used to this concept. But as I was mentioning, like the world is digital. There's no more digital deniers. The world is global. And now you get the ability to do everything that like Bitcoin allowed you to do 10 years ago, i.e. operate it globally, send it to anyone, operates 24/7, et cetera, but it allows you to do that with a representation of a value that you are very, very well accustomed to, right? And so what we're seeing develop is that, well, before that, dollars had already been digitized before, right? In fact, the vast majority of dollars in existence just exist in a digital form. They actually are not printed dollars, but 94+% of the dollars that exist today just exist on a digital ledger, whether that's on your bank, whether it's somewhere else, but they just exist in a digital form. Most of the dollars that most people hold are not physical. You have them at a bank account somewhere. That's where your savings are. And so what stablecoins allow you to do is just basically create the same dollars that you've already had digitally in your bank account, but now they're kind of like interoperable and they're global. And that means that, if you have them at Coinbase, you can send them to me at Bitso. And Coinbase and I don't really need to have a commercial relationship. We just both need to kind of like be plugged into this network. It's sort of like email, right? Like the email that, someone at Coinbase has, the email infrastructure provider might not necessarily be the same one that I have at Bitso, but our systems can communicate with each other because they speak a common protocol. And that's true anywhere. As long as anyone spoke SMTP, which is a protocol for sending mail, then you could communicate with them. If someone didn't have email, then you couldn't communicate with them. But what ended up happening was most people onboarded some sort of an email system, and now people can communicate with each other. And I believe that's what's going to end up happening with stablecoins. There are some interesting challenges around like AML, KYC. There's like interesting challenges that abound. But what we're seeing are like companies in the US are hiring freelancers in LATAM, and they're like, I'm going to pay you with a stable coin because it's easier to send and it's going to be faster, and and you're going to be able to receive it either at Bitso or anywhere else that you want. Like people are just replacing wires with stablecoin transfers. A stablecoin transfer can cost you, in some networks, a couple of cents and arrives instantly. And in some, if you send a wire transfer, that may cost you $20-$40 and it may take 2 to 3 days to arrive, right? And sometimes it's converted to your local currency and you don't know at what exchange rate, and it has all these other issues. And I was talking about like some of our numbers around remittances. When we started to play in the remittance space, like we were doing all of that through cryptos. So like Bitcoin or XRP or Ethereum. And now it's all stablecoins, right? Because the sales process is a lot easier. You used to say, hey, go in and buy Bitcoin and then send it and then sell it. And you're going to hold Bitcoin for a very short amount of time. But people are afraid of like, well, what happens if the value changes in that amount of time, right? In that fraction of a second or a few seconds that I have it. Now it's like, I'll just hold digital dollars and I'll send them and then I'll transfer them to pesos. So it's kind of like it's made everything easier. And we've seen a tremendous amount of innovation on the space. Probably the most interesting thing that happened in 2024 was a company named Bridge that we're big partners of and that we like quite a lot, got acquired by Stripe for $1 billion, right? And so we're seeing a bunch of companies that are trying to do something similar. And so we've doubled down at Bitso on this in various number of forms. One, we are continuing to improve our infrastructure to support USD stablecoins. And so that means more networks, more currencies, et cetera, et cetera. We have launched our own MXN stablecoin, MXNB, and with a consortium of folks, we launched BRL stablecoin called BRL1. And we're hoping that, we can build liquidity for these assets on chain, and that the future of kind of like FX and cross-border transactions will happen with this construct. The way that I kind of think about it is like, if global commerce didn't exist and it would start existing today, and someone were to say, how do I build a payments network for companies in all these jurisdictions all over the world, and you have the infrastructure that exists today, like it would need to be on a stablecoin. No one would invent correspondent banking and no one would invent the messaging layer of Swift. It would just be on stablecoins. And so our bet is that stablecoins will just eat all of cross-border transactions and the FX markets. And then the last two things that we're doing is we created an accelerator. And so we've created an accelerator to accelerate as many companies in LATAM as possible. They don't even need to be in LATAM. They just need to be wanting to do something like with stablecoins. And so I think we created the first stablecoin accelerator, maybe even in the world. And, it was incredible. We got hundreds of applications, and we're going to be announcing the first cohort for the push, and that's exciting for us. The push is what this initiative is called. And then we're also doing a stablecoin conference in August. And this is all just a way to bring policymakers, builders, customers, enthusiasts together to try and continue to push forward the narrative of stablecoins. Not only the narrative, but like actually the progress of stablecoins in the world. And we're extremely, extremely excited about this. And again, we just feel like this is the way in which the financial system is going to evolve, and we want to be the center of it.